What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. It's League Unlocked. That is Mark. My name's Eric. We got a little bonus playoff action to get through. We got midweek playoffs. Day one was already on Thursday. We're into day two if you're counting LPL action, which of course we are, but we got to start. I thought we'd have to wait a little longer to discuss perhaps disappointing performances from Team Solo Mid, but we only had to wait, well, not even a game, not even a series, Mark. The debut against Golden Guardians, and we knew they lost against Cloud9, or against Team Liquid, so they weren't going to get the bye. They got the worst matchup in Golden Guardians. You would have much rather played EG, and this is why.
And when we talked about that series, that matchup against TL, we were praising it in the sense of, look, there was a couple of mistakes here, and yeah, that missing out on TL stealing the Baron, that's not great. But overall, the quality wasn't that bad. This looked like two teams that were, figuring themselves out and their strengths in the playoffs, and they were going to take it. Not what we saw against the Golden Guardians. Well, maybe what we saw for the first 10, 15 minutes of game one against the Golden Guardians, and hit the good old pause, and since then, it was a completely different story.
Yeah, someone must have said something to the TSM players after that Chrono break or something, because, yeah, they were fully in control of that game. It looked like, okay, should be rock solid for game one. Then they have this the team fight in the mid lane where they get absolutely bopped, basically. And then after that, it's really only one other fight where you have the bot lane of TSM and three of them just wandering outside of their base when Golden Guardians is pushing. And why are you there?
Why are you there? Why do you think that? Yes, I can understand the thought of in one of these team fights. Oh man, we gotta take out the Ziggs here. The Zig, he's burning down. I gotta go in. I'm double it. I gotta get him. Yeah, but using your Caitlyn E right into a TPing Mord where you should have had the cupcake traps already set up for the Mord. So there's so many errors that we can talk about, especially errors on double lift and the bottom lane. We do have to absolutely light them up for that one, and as well talk about and break it down what happened, because by all accounts on TSM side, this was, and it's hard to say it and hard to quantify this one as the worst. This is one of the worst playoff losses that I've ever seen happen to TSM, and just how pathetic the performance was from everybody except for, and I'm gonna say except for, Bjergsen and Spica, and Spica is even a little bit questionable on that one for me.
Game two, if anyone deserved to win that game, it was Bjergsen to get them back into that game. There were countless team fights where, yeah, Doublelift's caught out. Oh, he's not in the fight. It's 4v5 or 4v4, and Bjergsen was doing the heavy lifting in his ear. Obviously, it just ends up, for some reason, TSM doesn't think that the Guardians, maybe they warded our base. Do you think they warded our base when they knocked down inhibs? Do you think three TPs is enough to kill one Nexus turret? I don't know. We're fine.
Maybe that gangplank that made that journey all the way from their base through the jungle to put down that ward for the TP. Oh, maybe that was something to notice about a little bit as well.
Nah.
Yeah, game two was not pretty as well. And then again, you said it, misplays from Doublelift, mispositioning around the map. And then as well in that bottom side, and this one even more specifically in this game two than game one, a ton of errors from Treats as well. Unforced error from him, and a bunch of whiffs on that Bard ultimate that really ended up happening at crucial times towards these team fights for and hurting TSM. And this is one of those ones where I have a lot of faith and a lot of belief in that Treats is going to be someone to work towards the future with, and the potential to come through here, and that this is the right time. But this absolutely was a very poor showing from him this week.
Yeah, there was a lot of face checking that was going on for them. So then we go into game three, and you can pretty much assume it's mental boom at that point for TSM. It looked.
You don't need to assume it. You can check on the TP from Doublelift. That is mental boom.
Yeah, not buying items. We'll get to that. But remember, they actually did kind of get back into the game for one point, and then it's the 3v5 around the Dragon, which I'm going to say first off, that was clean. That was really well done by the Guardians. You hide the Shockwave in the Dragon, Closer pops in, immediately blows up too, and then haunts her versus the world. It is so funny seeing the Death Realm against AD carries, and sometimes they try their damnedest, and sometimes you just tell the opposing AD carries, just sit still and auto attack. There's no point. I can't outplay this.
Especially with the mental boom that had been going on for everybody on TSM, but especially indicated by Doublelift in that game 3, wasn't pretty. And you said it around that fight. Beautiful job by Demonte hiding the Oriana ball in the Dragon. Just simple, leave it in there. No one's going to see it. No problem. Pop that ultimate in the W, deleting some folks alongside Closer jumping in. That's the only one that I was thinking to myself in that moment, you know what, Bjergsen, I know that it's tough. I know that you're worried about being blown up by Closer himself, him just turning on you. You got to find a way to engage on him before he can get into that Dragon to take that smite, since it was for the soul. That's the only one that I would say, you know what, you needed to do something. And that's one of those ones where that's a specific ask from him in that situation, because when you look at every other opportunity that he had in this series, he absolutely filled it for TSM. And the ones that you asked that you were going to be able to try and ask for him, it was other people on the team and other people's performance or inability to perform that was costing them in that moment.
And remember, Bjergsen was drawing 3-4 bans pretty much every single game. They didn't want the Zillion, didn't want the Akali, Aurelia, Syndra for a lot of it. Maybe you should have picked it in that third game for him, but remember, this was the streak. Doublelift hadn't lost a best of 5 series since like 2016, going back to his first stint on TSM. What a way for this streak to end. Far and away the worst best of series that we've seen out of him. FBI deservedly got player of the series. And remember, it's shocking that it was this lopsided, but throughout the entire regular season, FBI was the better performing AD carry. This isn't a fluke that happened in this series.
Right. But at the same time, it isn't exactly, this wasn't something that you could have seen coming as far as from Doublelift's performance, given the actual way that he performed in lane statistically. This season was not necessarily towards anywhere close to the bottom half. But you said it. FBI, this is someone that I think hasn't quite gotten enough recognition for just how well he's done this split. And that's on us as well as a lot of other people, because look, he really has continued to develop, step up his performance, and really come into his own alongside support like Huhi, who is fearless in how much he wants to engage on the other team. Absolutely a great combo down there for the Golden Guardians. And for someone like FBI, who has been constantly kind of, dismissed, ignored by someone like Doublelift as far as considering the talent of ADCs in North America and who he's stepping up against.
Everyone is, yeah.
Yeah, sure, that is everybody, but it absolutely, you got to believe it feels good for someone like FBI to shut him up and absolutely pump TSM in this series.
And listen, I know we've talked about it should be TSM, Cloud9, Team Liquid that represent at Worlds, and TSM aren't dead yet. They get to advance to the losers round to face a 5-13 Dignitas squad. So yes,
they get the Dardoch rematch.
Things could get worse. They could fall from Hauntzer slapping them, former player, to Dardoch slapping them. Things could get worse for TSM. But with the history of TSM and what the play style has been historically, especially internationally, if you're a fan of the LCS and have pipe dreams of performing well internationally, maybe a squad like Golden Guardians is someone you should be happier with, because they're more aggressive. They have a player like Closer, who is one of the best junglers, maybe right behind Blabber, probably the second best jungler in the LCS, who can show up on the international stage, has a great personality. Maybe you'd rather root for them.
It's so hard because you're fighting an uphill battle at that point when you're talking about arguing against the TSM fan base, Bjergsen fan base, and the Doublelift fan base at that point, talking about, look, I don't want to see this, quote unquote elite lineup of veteran talent at Worlds, because yeah, you're right. I would much rather at this, I know, very much so, the quotation marks, but very much I would rather see a team like Golden Guardians right now, and what they showed us this past weekend. This is stuff that we have seen flashes from them in this past year, and especially the summer split. And as you said, the way that they play, the players that they could bring to the table. You're telling me that you wouldn't be excited to see Demonte get another shot at Worlds after last year? More depth, more growth for him, as well as Closer being exciting in the jungle. And then what we have seen this past weekend from FBI and Huhi really looking to excel. Man, Golden Guardians is an exciting opportunity for North America to throw in a nice, a legitimate wild card into one of these groups.
If TSM, I would be very surprised if they did lose to Dignitas, but let's say they win that and lose in the next round. It's finally time to stop looking at the history and pedigree of this team being an icon in North America, because, it's 3 years now where they haven't performed to that level. So it's probably time to stop putting them in that category.
This has been one of those years, especially. I think last year was a little bit of it, and especially this year with the chance with the roster in spring, and then as well going back to now the old, quote unquote, old type of roster in summer. Yeah, this seems to be it. You either have to put up or shut up now for these results for TSM. You can't be going off of the old achievements of this organization because, yes, even if you've got Doublelift and Bjergsen, some of the players that achieved those achievements, it's not mattering right now because it's definitely time for what have you done for me lately.
Either way, I'll tell you what, if I'm Team Liquid, I'm not picking Golden Guardians for who I match up against. I'm picking whoever comes out of that FlyQuest EG one because they are on a roll right now. See if Cloud9 can deal with them. Team Liquid shouldn't have anything to do with that. The LPL playoffs we already mentioned, and they already started. And they started with a bang. We don't have an E-Star 2.0 in the summer split because Victory 5 did not disappoint in the Rift. Praise the PP Levers. They are ascending, taking down the world champs. And I think it is an upset. It's hard to say because it is a 5-8 matchup and Victory 5 are the higher seed, but they're the defending champions. It's FPX, but Victory 5 looked clean in this 4-game set.
It's only an upset just based off of the name recognition, obviously, of FPX and the players and what they accomplished last year. When you're looking at the performance that they had been carrying into this series and what Victory 5 was bringing up, Victory 5 had to be favored in this one, and they absolutely executed on that all the way throughout this series. PP God getting it done, blessing us through with this victory. But let's not forget that this one was hard carried on through with some major performances from Mole and from Weiwei. Were absolutely monsters in this series, making sure it came away in the favor for Victory 5.
Yeah, the first 2 games, Mole picked up back-to-back MVPs to go up 2-0. 18-1-12 on Zoe and Orianna in those first 2. And that's opposite Do and B.
Yeah, I got to tell you, we've been talking about our Zoe tier list all this year, having Knight up there and things, Showmaker. This is when you got to be putting up there. These type of performances from Mole, nasty.
Yeah, and sure, FPX did bounce back and get a win in Game 3. Even that was somewhat back and forth, but this was the almost pentakill for Do and B on the Orianna, which was a staple pick in this series. But V5 bounced back in that Game 4, and we didn't see any con in this series. I thought maybe down 2-0, they would have learned from Spring and tried throwing him in just as a curveball, but they've been going with Gimgoon for the last month plus now. They stuck with him in this series. Unfortunately, the last game is where it was the biggest top difference with the Lucian for Bui Bui on 11 kills on that one in the counter pick against the Gangplank. And it's rare that we see the top lane Lucian look good, but it looked real good in Game 4.
Yeah, and I don't think that's when really I guess you do have to put a bit on Gimgoon himself there, but that certainly is one that you said, yeah. That's one where we would have liked to subbed in Khan and seen what he could have done, obviously, heading into that one with your backs against the wall. Look, this is going to be for FPX. They got to go down to the regional tournament to make their trip to Worlds, get that one through. But for Victory 5, hey man, their dream still alive, still performing well. And again, believe in PP God. And as long as Mole and Weiwei are delivering those big time monster carry performances for you, Victory 5 ain't going away anytime soon.
And what's ideal for them is now you're talking about the next round. They should be favorites. It's a weird sentiment where in your first round as the higher seed, you're the underdogs, but then you go to the next round as the lower seed and you're the favorites over Suning. I think it's pretty much consensus that they are a better team than Suning. Assuming they play to this level, I think they come away with the dub, and then they got a date with top eSports. So this could be only the beginning of the run for V5.
Oh boy, and again, you can't overlook Suning. As much as we say that they should be the favorites in that series, certainly everything we've seen from Suning this year is that you cannot underestimate what they will bring to the table.
Sure.
But if they get by them, hey man, that rematch against top eSports, of course, that is what we're all waiting for.
You concerned at all about FPX in the gauntlet? They still getting through there?
I think that they can push on through. I think that they've got enough of a head start already based on the points that they've gotten, that they're going to have some time to clean it up. and they're going to put together that performance to make sure they're heading over to Worlds to be that nightmare for EU.
And there's a pretty good chance, obviously. It's impossible to predict when we don't know the other teams that are in there. It could be pretty stacked. You could be surrounded by an IG, LGD, Victory 5, or if there's an upset of JDG and TES, they don't make it to the finals, they get thrown in there. If you have...
That is a spicy hot pot.
FPX, IG, and one of top esports in JDG that they get upset, I believe only 2 of those teams are getting out. So that's...
That regional tournament's better than a lot of regions' playoffs.
Absolutely. You're going to have 2 fully played out rounds of playoffs that are better than most of the other regions. The other first round action that wrapped up was LGD versus World Elite. And I said World Elite should be favorites coming into this one. LGD hadn't looked as clean to close out. Well, they looked pretty clean against World Elite. I think the biggest thing was GA seemed to have gotten a buff playing against his former squad, said, you know what, you guys didn't want to hold on to me. I didn't want to be there anymore. This is what you're missing out on. It was absolutely a huge mid-gap between him and Teacher Ma in this series. And as well, Peanut stepped up in a big way. They were absolutely the focal points and have been all season, but they both looked world-class in this series.
If you're someone who's been paying attention to LGD this year and, someone who's been a fan of Peanut over the past couple of years trying to keep your eye on this team, this is all you could have been asking for in this playoff series. This was so exciting, so fun to watch. Peanut really performed, but you said it. That's the one I want to focus on, Shie. Shie really showed up. He looked so motivated in this series. And right from the get-go in game number 1, he was locked in, ready to play. Man, he delivered one of those performances that we'd been talking about him in the past, that this is why a team like WE had been holding on to him as a star player, trying to build around him for a couple years. This is that payoff for a team like LGD right now, seeing that level of performance come through.
Yeah, this was peak 2017 GA that we got to see. Basically single-handedly push the game in their favor in Game 2 with the Silas Quadra that, if that's a penta, you're talking about that as what is one of the best plays all year in the LPL. Still is, just because it's a quadra. It still was one of the best plays. But
it just misses out on that little bit of prestige from having the full penta.
It makes the difference. It honestly makes the difference. But now LGD advancing against IG. That will be a fun one. Peanut versus Ning, when Ning is actually performing well, which makes the matchup a lot more exciting.
Hey, man, this is going to be a bloody bath. These are going to be 2 junglers really looking to make some ganks pay off, so you better be watching this series, of course.
Yeah, the LPL action continues over the weekend, and they're not in playoffs yet in the LCK, but there were still a bunch of games to go over. And first and foremost, we got to highlight a non-playoff team, because your boy Eamon had himself a day against Soul Prince. Finished Game 2. It was a 2-0 sweep for KT. 19-0-4 on the Caitlyn. 19 kills, include a penta in that one, as Flawless eventually gave it up. But that's how you play Caitlyn.
That's easy. Take, Parth, Lustboy, whoever I need to... Reggie, who do I need to talk to at TSM? Get that clip. Get that clip of the Caitlyn plays and just put that in front of Double It for the next 2 days. And maybe we're going to get
You see this part where he bought a BF sword? Write that down. Write it down.
Or that, not eing into the Mordekaiser? Oh.
I don't know. That seems a little suspect. I don't know if that could pay off. But interesting thing here about KT. They're now 7-9. Afrika are 9-7. We just assumed Afrika's locked for that 5th spot. These 2 squads still play each other once more. Now, KT does have to probably get a win against Damwon, which seems very unlikely. But let's say Afrika drops a game or 2, and if they lose to KT might steal that final playoff spot.
Not only can KT steal that spot, mathematically, still possible for Sandbox Gaming to get that playoff spot if Afrika loses every single game and Sandbox wins every single game. And I think there's one other team that needs to have an 0-2 somewhere in there as well. Then it all works out for Sandbox. But Yamato's hope is still alive there, and all the hard work they've done to get to that point. But you're right. It is looking like it could be KT as our only small percentage chance to really have a chance to steal away this spot from the Afrika Freaks. But look, it's legitimate. The Afrika Freaks do need to figure something out and put a result on the board, or else they're going to find themselves dealing with these two nipping at their heels.
All those 0-2s against the top teams are coming back to bite them. They play Sandbox, that KT matchup, and then Gen G to wrap up their schedule. So that's, I feel like, easily 1-2. If they go 0-3 in that, ooh.
Hey man, destiny is in your own hands at this point. If you can't handle it, you can't book your own ticket to playoffs with this schedule remaining in front of you. I'm sorry, guys, you don't deserve playoffs.
No, that's absolutely the case. They're actually 8-7, by the way, not 9-7. So that makes it a little more spicier. Also, we had T1 match up again against those very same Afrika Freaks, and that's what I'm talking about. 2-0s. And that, listen, Kana continues to be insane. Closer is just going to play Zoe every single game, I think. I think that's what Coach Kim has told him. And it's working.
Well, when are the others going to realize that, look, I know that Closer's got a lot of skill, and I know that he's going to be able to play things other than just Zoe at the LCK level. But come on, one of these coaches has got to say, look, I know there are other bans we can take, but let's just push this kid on something other than Zoe, because he has clearly shown us that not only is Zoe busted, he can pilot it pretty damn well.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like it's this pocket pick. This guy's coming in styling on Katarina. Like, Zoe's not that weird a ban. Just generally, let alone if the guy's standout performer on it. But we talked about the Lucian top for Victory 5. It worked pretty damn well for Kana as well. I'm shocked to see it in 2 different games that it worked out well.
It's not something we've seen always work out well, and it is a thing of beauty, though, when it does end up working out, and Kana working it greatly. And this is one that, hey, again, picking up more of these player of the game votes for Kana, man. As a rookie, to be this high up in the Paga votes, this is incredible.
Tied with Showmaker. So it's looking good for T1. They're riding a win streak into playoffs. DRX also matched up against Hanwha Life. Maybe it took a little bit longer. Wasn't as dominant as you would have liked to see, probably. But honestly, DRX, they look bored. Playoff time yet? Winter playoffs? Are we going to get first, second, whatever?
They're getting ready for the damn one rematch. They're getting ready for when they can get a T1 match on their schedule. That's what these boys are looking for, that level of competition.
Well, you're going to have to wait, because on Sunday they play Soul Prince. So they got one more match. Then they'll match up against T1 on the final day of the regular season. But, I mean, them and Damwon, it's almost going through the motions. But the problem is going through the motions for them is 2-0ing all these non-playoff teams.
Yeah, and you don't get to see enough of them to really keep talking about how positive and how well they played, because it's so businesslike how quickly they dispatch to these guys.
Yeah, it's routine for them, even if there are a few slight hiccups. Another 2-0 for them. 14-2 now, sitting atop the table, only because they've played an extra game from Damwon. This weekend, we got the LPL quarterfinals, as we mentioned. FlyQuest versus EG continues. The LEC is not playing this weekend. They have a week off before their playoffs, so we got time to kill before Europe hits the rift.
And that one feels unfortunate, leaving us stuck with just LCS during the daytime here, guys. Come on, give us a little treat.
Yeah, at least we have LPL rolling on. Both those matchups will be interesting, and we'll be here on Monday to recap all the action that goes down over the weekend. But that's it today for League Unlocked. Mark and Eric here with you guys. As always, thanks for chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. We'll catch y'all on the flippity flop.